almost 50 people online. Thank you very much. Happy New Year to all of you. Happy 2024. And I really hope that this year will be a great one for the public relations business. Less artificial intelligence and more natural intelligence if possible, because we cannot prevent artificial, and we should develop our natural intelligence in order to coincide well with artificial ones and to do good business together. This is our first event for 2024. A lot of interesting events are still to come. In April, we will have our first Davos Summit in presence. So all of you will be invited by our executive coordinator, Jessica. Afterwards, the dates are set. It's Jessica, April 10th and 11th, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's the one.
And with some of you, we met in Davos, by the way. Adriana, for sure. And I'll be very happy that the rest of you join us in the beautiful mountains of Davos. You made it. We will make it, or we took the decision to make it in April, especially from you, our friends from Africa and Asia, because we were doing this in January, and you guys were coming freezing in Davos. It was -10, -15, and all of, especially our Indian friends and some people from Nigeria and South Africa, they were complaining that it's very cold and that, you know, they should buy additional dress and shoes and this and that. So now it's April, and April in Davos is brilliant weather. But today we have our masterclass, and the topic of our masterclass is effective public speaking. For the ones who don't know me, my name is Maxim Behar. I'm the president of the World Communications Forum Association. And we were launched exactly 15 years ago, by the way, very successfully. We used to have every year meeting in Davos. We were doing master classes, we were doing brainstorming, discussions. Then COVID came and we stopped for 3 years, and we were doing all our events online like today. So master classes we are doing for the second year in a row. And today I have a great privilege to introduce to you Laura Baxter, a real professional in the field of leadership and coaching, an expert who can supercharge your communication skills, will motivate us, will energize us, so we will be much better in our business. Laura was recognized as one of the Speakers Excellence Top 100 trainers in Germany, Switzerland, and Austria. And she is with us today to share her experience with us. And I will not introduce anymore. If you're interested of Laura, you go on Google, you go on Wikipedia, you go wherever you want to go. And of course, again, thank you very much. Laura Baxter, it's your turn.
Thank you, Maxime. And thank you for inviting me to speak today. And thank you, Jessica, for the organization of this this masterclass. It was an honor to be asked, and it's a privilege to be here. Before we get started, I'd like to ask, how many of you, just to kind of get a feel for what's most important to you when you think about public speaking, and you think about the different aspects of it, so creating the structure of a talk, or stage fright, overcoming stage fright, or better communicating with your audience, stage presence, all of that. What are the factors? If you would just write in the chat, write 1 or 2 words. You're welcome to write several times. Just write what you find or what you would like to most learn about today, and I will rearrange what we're going to be doing accordingly. I've got the things that I've planned to share with you. Just write in the chat, okay, overcoming stage fright, or overcoming stage fright, or creating a better structure of a presentation, etc. Storytelling is wonderful, very important. Stage presence, yeah. Presence and storytelling. Stage presence with and connecting with the audience, yes, definitely. A charismatic talk like a pro, yeah. Audience management. Composure, yeah. Impactful information, yeah, very good. Storytelling, connecting with the audience. The fuse of humor, yes, a little humor, yeah. How to tune storytelling with the presentation and not having, yeah, not having it lose its corporate feel. Okay, yep. Infection with the video, yeah, with the big audience. How to keep them concentrating, not bore them. Interaction with the interaction with the large audience. Interaction. Maintaining the audience attention. Okay, and online public speaking. Good. How to overcome stage fright. Okay. Great. Especially when presenting to a hostile audience. That's interesting. Yeah. So, excellent. A little bit about, please keep adding to the list. I find this very helpful for me. A couple of things were mentioned, and I'm going to touch on a few things and then get into the basics of what I wanted to share with you. One is online public speaking is a big deal in the sense of being able to handle that. And I find it interesting, especially communicating with an audience, and especially if you don't know if they're going to be on your side from the beginning. I'm not sure I like the word hostile, but that's always a very big deal. A little bit about my background, just to give you an idea of where I'm coming from. I am a singer. I come from the opera stage. I got my master's in vocal performance and pedagogy, and I taught at Duke University, and then I toured with the National Opera Company in the States before coming to Europe and singing here. In addition, I coach TEDx speakers, and I am a master trainer in NLP, etc. I'm on the voice faculty at the university here in Erlangen, where I teach both voice and speech. And the other things you can read online. But one of the things in working with my audiences or working with my speakers is helping them when they're working with difficult audiences to understand how to reach people and also how to stay centered, calm, and focused to make sure that your message is getting across, even though they may not be on your side. And even more so, for example, one client of mine was the CEO of a medical development or medical research company. And when they were bringing a certain product onto the market, he knew that he was giving a speech. And in this case, he is from Germany, but the speech was in California. And he knew that there would be a lot of journalists and a lot of people from other companies in the audience. And they may likely attack him, ask very, very pointed questions in order to embarrass him publicly. And so one of the main things we worked on, and we'll do a couple of exercises like that today, was how to stay absolute in his center, to stay centered and focused, really calm, so that he could connect with those asking questions, because at the end of his talk, there was a Q&A session, and to be able to you can't always be 100% sure, but really to feel or sense what they were saying, and to recognize whether or not that was, if they were trying to trap him or if it was a genuine question about the research that they had been doing. So that's an interesting challenge in general. So about one of the things we're doing at the end, we'll be talking about stage fright and how to stay centered and focused, which will address this particular point. Look here a little bit, online public speaking, another, yeah. As far as online public speaking, I hadn't planned to speak much about it, um, as part of this, but one of the most important aspects, I'd say the two most important aspects, are to have an excellent microphone. And it doesn't have to be an expensive microphone, but it does need to be a good microphone, and make sure there's no echo coming from the room you're in. And when you're speaking to your audience, look at the camera. So right now, I'll be moving you all up behind the camera in a second because I'll be switching cameras. But right now, if I were to be looking at you all, you're down here. And if I were to look there as I'm speaking to you, then it would look like this the entire time. And as it doesn't take very long for you to feel like I'm not really talking to you. So one of the most important things with online presence, online presentation, is to look into the camera, even though it feels incredibly unnatural. So what we're going to be talking about today, I'd like to share what I call my confidence roadmap with you. We're going to go through a few stages of this, but this roadmap, and if you are interested in getting this roadmap, I'll give you my email address at the end where you can just write me a quick note and say, please send me that, and we'll send you that, and also the slides or the photo protocol from today. The roadmap is basically everything you need when you're giving a presentation. And it's what I use in my Confidence Roadmap seminar in helping my clients to overcome stage fright. But not only that, also to really own the stage and own the room, to make the stage their home, so that when they're with their audience, they're very charismatic, they're engaging, they're on top of it. So we're going to talk about the different aspects of presentation, but I wanted to show you this roadmap first. We start out in the roadmap, your presentation is not yet ready. As you're preparing your presentation, and we're going to go through a couple of these stages now, these stages of the process, in everything you do, come into what I call a coach state. This concept of a coach state is even from the very beginning. Come back over here even from the very beginning, as you're starting the whole process, be centered and calm. And what a coach is, actually, the coach itself is an acronym. For the coach, the C part is centered. So being centered, being open, being aware of everything that's going around, and then connecting, in that case, connecting to your audience and holding that situation. The coach state is something you can do for yourself as you're preparing, both to practice this state, as well as something you can do when you're in front of the audience. Because that connecting to the audience is what we want at the end of the day. So the very first thing is to bring yourself in a centered, calm state and envision what it is you want to accomplish. And then after that, we do a situation analysis and an audience analysis. And then we actually go into the structure of the presentation. And I want to talk to you, probably the first half of my talk is going to be about going over the situation analysis and the audience analysis, just so that, just to let you know exactly what the processes are with this. Especially when I work with my speakers, even speakers when it comes to TED Talks, etc. So in order to do that, I'm going to bring the flip chart over here. So the situation analysis and the situation analysis is basically going through all of the details of the situation that you're finding yourself in. Are you going to be, what time of day are you going to be speaking, for example? Are you going to be speaking in a large hall, or are you going to be speaking online? Are you going to be speaking to a rather intimate group of people or a rather large group of people? What exactly is the situation? Are you going to be using a microphone or not? And of course, then one of the major questions is, who is in the audience? one of our focuses for today is also speaking interculturally. In the audience analysis that I do with both my clients, but also I'd like for you to kind of picture what we do is actually physically walk through what the people in the audience need, their demographics, also their psychographics, what exactly are their needs, what are their concerns, what are they worried about, what is their average day like in their lives. And then we analyze what they need from this talk. So for example, in preparation for today, a few of the questions that I asked Jessica about the program, and knowing we've got a very international audience, what are the things that are most commonly needed when we're speaking on an international stage? And in preparation for that, if you are speaking for a culture that's other than your own, one of the most important steps is to speak to people. And alone with the World Communications Forum Association, we have colleagues from different countries, from different cultures that we can ask, wait, I'm coming to your culture, your country, or can you tell me what I need to be on the lookout for in my talk? And to have friends and colleagues that can advise you on what the culture is like. So for example, last year and the year before, I spoke in India several times and gave several seminars there. Prior to 2022, I had not ever been to India. Obviously, I know a lot of Indians, a lot of Indian Americans, a lot of Indians living here in Germany, but that's not the same as actually being in the culture and being immersed in the culture. So before I went to give talks or anything else, I went to spend an extended period of time to work and learn about the cultures. It's a very diverse culture, so I would not dare to speak about one culture in India, but to ask questions, to see what are the things I should be aware of when I'm giving this talk. And then the very most important thing when it comes to intercultural presentation, above all, is humility. To recognize that there's no way that you as a person can understand this wonderful culture you're allowed to stand in front of, and also to understand that your culture or your country is not everything. To be able to say, wait a minute, that's the way I was raised in that country, but there are other ways of looking at life as well. There are other ways of living as well. And that's probably the largest mistake I see, especially in the international speaking world, is public speakers tend to, want to say, okay, I'm number one, I'm the best, I'm going to get out there, I'm going to give a talk. And alone what I'm doing right now is a very American thing. And there's this tendency to not just stop and say, wait a minute, I would like to learn at least as much as as the information as far as as much as I'm teaching. I would like to learn from the group where I am, and that is not easy. That really taking that step back and being willing to say, wait a minute, my cultural worldview is different, is really the first step in being able to speak interculturally. And then there are a lot of details. I mean, one of the things in working with my clients, one of the things we watch out for example, are numbers. In this culture, how do they write numbers? That varies from culture to culture. Where are the commas, where are the decimals? What exactly, how does that function? Because anyone from the English speaking world coming to Germany will typically write as a decimal point. And in Germany, it's actually a comma. So if you've got your big PowerPoint slides and you've got this decimal point there, it's going to be confusing to the German brain. And although it's fun sometimes to confuse German brains, that's not really our goal. And it really shows that you've done your homework if you get little details like that right. So the audience analysis, the very first thing we do is we look at the culture itself. I also have, as part of my work, a culture ID, a personality profile that I use with my clients that compares their personality profile to the culture ID, the cultural profile of the country they're going to. And that helps them also be prepared for small things, like if you were speaking in Asia, if you're speaking, for example, in Japan, and you ask at the end of your talk, are there any questions? And you don't really see much of a reaction, then, but like a few people look up, but don't really wave, raise their hand or wave or anything or speak up. That's a signal that they actually have a question, just the looking up attitude, making the eye contact. You need to be aware of these small details that, quite honestly, it is not possible to know all of the different variations of things that we have to look out for, but just be aware that it's going to be different than you expect. And if you're open to that and aware of that, then you've already got a head start. So looking at the culture is one aspect. The second is we do an exercise in which we really put them in, so to put yourself in your audience's position. What are their needs in this situation? And to analyze what those needs are at a depth that enables you to figure out what you need to be talking about in your talk. And the way to do that is really, the exercise I use for it is called the meta position exercise. I'll just briefly talk you through it. It won't be one of our focuses, but you can go back and look at the recording of this and be able to surmise what we talked about. Basically, what you do, the first position is you, and you're looking at the audience and describing with all of your senses what you see, what you think they need. But then you step out of this spot and step into their position and look with all of your senses at this person who's speaking. In my case, this would be Laura, and that's the audience. So now Laura is standing, the body of me is standing here, but I'm them, I'm my audience, looking back, and what do I want from her? What do I need? And then go away from both of those positions and look at both to see how can this person best serve. So that's one of the exercises we do in figuring out what the audience needs for that particular presentation. Now, when it comes to the structure of your talk, the very first thing I do when I'm coaching my TEDx speakers is the structure, what I'm about to do with you. And basically, I draw these boxes. A TED Talk is only allowed to be roughly...
Hi, Laura. We can't see your screen.
Strange. Okay. Thank you. You love technology. You can hear me though, right?
Maybe
Yes, we can hear you.
Maybe you can turn off the camera and turn it again on.
That may be necessary. Yep. Wait 1 second.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay. Sometimes technology gets fixed very quickly. Sometimes we just resort to the other camera. Anyway, so there is a little black box in the middle of my screen. Now it's gone. No, it's still there. Forgive me for that. I do not know what that is. I think it's a focus of the camera. Let me try. Okay, it is still there. I'm not sure how to get rid of it. It's basically a focus point of the camera looking for my face. But anyway, so But you can see this flip chart okay, right? So basically with every TED Talk, a TED Talk cannot be over 18 minutes. It's somewhere usually between 10 and 15 minutes. And in that time, you've got to captivate your audience. You've got to really bring up the subject that you need. You bring up your subjects, get everything you want out for the audience, but it needs to be well-rounded. So the very first thing is we decide on a frame for the talk. And this frame starts here at the very beginning of the talk and ends here. So it can be a story, for example. That's one of the best ways to start. It could also be something like if you've got a particular talent like juggling or singing, something of that sort, you can put that, you can begin with that and then come back. So basically some sort of talent with a metaphor. You don't want to just juggle. There has to be a reason for juggling for the audience. And whatever that is, so let's say you start the story, it's going to be connected to the end. And that's what we call a loop. A loop is something we use in hypnosis to actually begin to speak to the subconscious mind of our audience. And it also keeps them engaged because you've kind of opened this story and there's got to be an end at some point. So for example, one of the openings of one of my clients was he had received a very interesting email. So this email happened to be from the founders. I'm going to give this part of it, just so you know what we're talking about. They were the two founders of Google, and they were in the room next door to him, and they had just figured out how to do a platform, and they sent him an email saying, "Hey, come over and look at this." And so he starts this sort of story and shows this email without showing who it's from, and he shows the email, and he said, "Okay, I was at Stanford University, and I was working on this thing, and all of a sudden I got an email from the guys in the lab next door, and they opened up my eyes to it. They told me this is the most fantastic thing in the world." And then he began to go. The story was a bit longer than this and more detailed. Then he began to go into his talk, and at the very end, he came back to his original story and showed the email who it was from. And then you realize, oh, that was a really important email from the founders of Google, and they had just figured out their platform. So that's one of the ways to create a loop. Another is to begin to talk about your topic in a way, leaving it at a point of, wait, we're not there, we're not finished yet. And then again, coming back to that at the end. And then once you've decided what this topic is, and it needs to be the most emotional part of your speech, because as we know, the beginnings and the endings are the most important part. That's what really stays in people's memory. Then you have your major points. And if you're giving a talk that is, let's say, 45 minutes or less, I would keep to 3 major points. Those points can be longer or shorter. So by a TED Talk, these can't be longer than 3 minutes each. But basically stick to 3, because most people can't, if they're not writing down what you're talking about, they can't really remember more than 3 points. If they're able to write down what you're talking about, so if it's a much more like a university lecture or a much more content-focused talk, then you can give more points if you know that they can actually write with you as you're talking. But even then, I wouldn't exceed 5, at most maybe 7, the magical number of 7. And every talk should have what I call the 3 H's. With the 3 H's, they are something for the heart. In other words, a story. In my case, often a song. Something that's going to touch them. Could be pictures if you're using a lot of PowerPoint. It can be kind of a magical adventure as well. Something for the heart, something that's going to emotionally touch your audience, something for their head. Now, what I mean by that is some sort of research, something to back up what you're saying, to give credibility to what you're speaking about. And last, something for their hands. In other words, something to do, a call to action. And in a talk, ideally, you should not have more than one call to action. People get rather confused if you give them too many things to think about. If you say, okay, go to this website and do this, okay, and then go here and do this, that's too much. So something for the heart. And usually if you're starting with this story, you're ending with the story, you're coming back to the story at the end to close up that loop, then you've got something for the heart. You may want to add another story in here. That would be another thing for the heart. And some research about what you're talking about. And the hand, something for them to do, a call to action. An example of this, I just gave a TED Talk in New Jersey, in the US, in October. It will be released soon. I can't wait. We're in the last parts of the editing of it. And the story I started off with was telling about someone I met at a conference who had heard me speak about the voice. And she basically she basically said that's all well and good and it was nice, but it's not for me. You know, people have not ever liked my voice. They've always criticized it. And so basically she said it's not for her. And then I said, you know, I started to ask her some more questions about her situation, but I was interrupted. And when I turned back around, she was gone. I couldn't tell her how strong her voice was, how much, if she only knew what to do, how much she could do with her voice. I couldn't tell her that the voice of a newborn baby is strong enough that it can be heard over 2 miles away in the right circumstances. And every one of us is born with a voice like that. And then after that, I left that story. And I went to, at that point, research on the voice, why it's so important. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a second when it comes to charisma. And other stories, etc., my other points, lovely acronym, and then I came back to the woman and then finished with the song. So that's the heart, the head, and as part of this end, the call to action is usually here somewhere, right before or after the third point. And you can repeat it again in the end, but this is usually rather short. It's kind of getting out of there. The box is large, but the other thing, so your talk should always have the 3 H's. And the other thing you need to be aware of before, as you're doing your analysis and before you plan the structure of your talk, is to decide what is the key emotion. You're all PR people, so you understand emotion far better than I. What is the key emotion you want to leave your audience with? Not only the key information, that's also important, but what is the key emotion you want to leave your audience with? Because that will help to decide which story to choose, how to use that story, and then how to engage. And if that story is engaging for that audience, they are going to be with you the entire time, simply because they want to know the end of the story. Yeah. And by the way, just so you know, that you can open other loops, like you could start another loop here and end it there, etc. Be very careful with that, because after a certain number, like 2 to 3 loops, your audience goes into a trance. So they're with you, but they literally go into a hypnotic state. So it's best, especially with a rather short talk, to keep it to one major story and smaller stories that get closed immediately, as opposed to keeping too many things open. But again, ask yourself, what emotion, put that in a different color, what emotion do you want your audience to feel? And that will help you decide. That will help you decide exactly what story. So, charisma, a charismatic talk. Move away from this for a minute. There are a lot of different research. There's been a lot of research on charisma, especially about the body language. If you watch these TED Talks, they use their hands this number of times, etc. In 2015, Professor Oliver Niebuhr started working on charisma for the students at the business school at the University of Southern Denmark. He wanted to understand what makes the speaker charismatic, and he looked at all of the body language analyses and everything, but he also looked at the voices because he himself is a linguist. And he found that the major difference when you're analyzing different charismatic speakers, the major difference is not the body language. It's not how many gestures the audience does. It's the voice and how the speaker varies with the voice. And the different factors that play a role, the vocal characteristics with which you can play, are things like pauses. If you do an unexpected pause, you capture the attention of your audience. If you vary your melody, so sometimes speaking a little lower and sometimes a little higher in your voice, then that also keeps your audience interested. Also, if you vary your tempo, the speed at which you're speaking, you can speak somewhat slower or then speed up and speak faster. So as I can keep going at a faster pace, and as long as I'm breathing deeply, that's not a problem. The audience can follow you. You can actually breathe superficially, which will also change your voice. Watch what happens in your body when I do that. So it's wonderful that you're all here today for us to be able to talk about presenting. Yeah, in general, when I breathe superficially, in general, you're going to also start mirroring my actions and breathing superficially. And actually, it could be a bit uncomfortable. So if you want to bring stress into your audience because what you're talking about is just so stressful, then you breathe superficially. And then you can release it by breathing deeply. Did you notice the differences there? Also, you can vary the dynamics, how loudly or softly you speak, so that you're speaking a little louder and then softer again. And you can also vary how the color of your voice. You can bring more warmth into the voice or come to the point. And the last one, how to play with the color or the timbre of the voice, that's got a little more advanced as far as really working with the voice. These are all things that you can literally play with in order to captivate your audience, in order to keep their attention. As far as the body language goes, there's one thing I wanted to share with you that's a dead giveaway that someone is insecure, and that is how they move their arms and their hands. When we feel insecure, we want to keep our upper arms very close to the body. Let me put the flip chart behind me so you can see it better. So we tend to keep our upper arms very close to the body. And we say things like, okay, like here on this flip chart, as we see on this flip chart, the structure of a talk has these different points, and I can keep talking like this and keep the upper arms very close to the body like that, or I can move my arms from the shoulders. When we feel comfortable at home, in our kitchens, and living room, whatever, when we feel comfortable, all of our gestures start with the shoulders. So if you're gesturing to the flip chart, make sure the motion always starts at the shoulder, as opposed to the elbow or no gesture at all, just the shoulder. Other than that, it needs to be authentic. If you ever work with a presentation, trainer who says use this gesture when you're talking about that, or you need to be emphasizing like that, if that is not authentic to you, it's going to look ridiculous. There are people like President Obama who use very few gestures. In a long speech of half an hour or longer, he may only do 2 or 3 gestures. That's authentic to him, so it's charismatic. Whatever you do needs to be authentic for you. And on the other side, there are people who, when they are, at home, they use very large gestures. And when they get in front of an audience, sometimes they feel very insecure and they don't make any gesture at all. That's terrible for the audience. Again, it seems inauthentic, and therefore people start to feel kind of tense. So, looking at the time, we're going to have a bit of a Q&A. I would like to briefly touch on stage fright, because I promised in the description to talk about the key thing that is important to overcoming stage fright. It is, and again, if you would like to have a copy of this, let me know. Let me go ahead and put my email in the chat. You can drop me an email and I'll send you this, or I'll make it so that Jessica also, it'll be available, but for possibly with the video, I'm not sure how we'll be doing that. To go back to the roadmap, part of being able, move it up a little, part of being able to stay centered and focused when you're giving and controlling stage fright is not only the rehearsing phase, but also visualizing and having an excellent mindset. But when I work with people on stage fright itself, or overcoming stage fright, better said, the first thing and the most important thing to realize, absolute most important thing to realize, is that stage fright is one of the most egotistical things you can have. So, when I say that, when I say that, what do I mean? Oops. You could actually open up a microphone or something if you want to just kind of say what. When I say this is, having stage fright is one of the most egotistical things that you can have. If you've got stage fright, what are you thinking about? What is the focus?
Am I good enough?
Am I good enough? Yeah. Am I good enough? What else?
Am I making sense?
Yeah, what should I say now?
What should I say? Yeah.
Do they like me?
Say, do they like me?
Will they invite me back?
Will they invite me back? It's especially in the public speaking world of professional speakers, where will they ever invite me back? Yes. Yeah. Another one, especially here in Germany, it's a biggie, is what if I make a mistake? Or also, so what if I make a mistake?
Yeah. Am I making sense?
Am I making sense? What do they think about me? You notice with all of these, some wonderful things in the chat. Oh, I'm going to save that so I can read it later. One of the things, if you'll notice with all of these, the focus is me. What if I make a mistake? What do they think about me? What if I make, will they invite me back, etc. People who don't experience or don't describe that they experience stage fright, what is their focus?
The story or others?
Yeah, the story?
Your
Or the
focus.
content? or the content, or what? I mean, you said one other thing, the story, or something else. What was that?
Focus.
The focus,
Story,
yeah.
story or audience?
Or the audience, yes. Well, they're both focuses. I think, was that Max? You said the focus, you said the audience. So
Okay.
we're both focused. On both of these, you've got focus. But on this one, we're focusing on us. You know, what if I make a mistake? What if I'm not good enough? This one, we're focusing on them and what we want to give them. And one of the pictures that I have in my mind, even in preparing for today, for example, is I spent the last, 48 hours thinking about what is the gift that I want to give you? What is the present that I want to give you today? What information can I give you that might help you go one step further from where you already are, you know? And I'm assuming we're on PR communication. We've all got experience giving presentations. What can I give you that's going to bring you one step further? And if you literally picture that in this case, it's content. You know, when you're giving a talk, it's content. What is that thing? And you picture it as a present, as if you're, Christmas, and you're giving it to the person or giving it to the audience, to each person in that audience. Then you stay centered and focused. You really stay in your center. You stay calm because it's about them. It's not about you. I mean, believe me, we all think about I think about what I look like before I come out here and everything like that. You sit there going, where's the makeup? Yeah, you think about all those things. Yes, and it's important to to present your best self. I'm not saying that's not important. But the most important thing is the audience. The most. Now, about stage fright. This is something I accidentally learned as a kid. When we have something, an event, a presentation, a performance that we're about to give, and it's important to us, our body creates adrenaline. Period. If it's important to us, our body's going to create it. I had it before, getting ready for today, putting the makeup on, getting dressed. Okay, well, let's go. This phenomena is true for everyone, regardless of whether or not they have stage fright. The question is, how do you interpret it? Many people, they have these butterflies in the stomach, this adrenaline, and they interpret it as stage fright. And they think, I'm nervous. And they go into this dialogue here with them, this focus. Those who stay here have the exact same adrenaline, same butterflies in the stomach, but they're psyched. I'm psyched, yeah. Pumped up, ready to go. I've got energy. Excited is probably the best word for it, in a positive sense. And I first learned that when I was a child. When I was a teenager, I started taking voice lessons when I was about 15 years old. And when in the US, we do a lot of competitions and everything each year to just get in the practice of being in front of an audience. And in that, if someone came up to me before a performance and said, because I loved singing. So I was there ready to go, yeah, we're going to do this. If someone said, are you nervous? There was an instinct in me that would literally almost yell, no. And I didn't speak to that person again until after everything was over. For me, that person starting at that point was no longer existed, a persona non grata. Because they were trying to bring me into this. And I wasn't there. I was over here. And I could feel that they were trying to make me something I wasn't at that moment. And that's what you have to do for yourself. Not that don't feel forced about it, but just begin to think about, what am I going to give them? what is it I can give this audience? Who's out there? Who is, what exciting thing can I share? And then you can stay here. So I think my time is about up. We wanted to have a Q&A session. Just a few, if anyone has any questions, it'll give me a chance also to look through the chat a little bit. Jessica, do you want to open up, or would we just do like calling out?
Well, we can read what we have in the questions, but I can.
Perfect. Yeah. And also,
we don't have any recent questions, to be honest. It's only that the things that the audience wanted to learn from the beginning. Okay, one new question. I prefer trying put on a composed before I speak. Avoid engaging with anyone. That's from Victor.
Yep. That is a very individual thing. I'm very similar to you. Who is that wrote that?
It's Mr. Victor Sibeko.
So, Victor, I'm very similar. Especially if it's important to me, I like to stay very focused. And unfortunately, and that sometimes seems very serious, and some people interpret that as nervous or whatever, but I like to be focused. I like to be alone. I don't like to talk to people afterwards, gladly, but not before. That's a very individual thing. I have colleagues, especially in opera, that just talked before performances. That was one of their ways of releasing. But that wasn't who I was. So I certainly understand you wanting and allow that. And just make sure, again, kind of protect yourself. If you like that being able to be focused and centered, then use that for your, you just, if anyone asks you, you need anything? No, I'm fine. I just tell them that I like to be focused. I like to be, I like to be alone beforehand, but afterwards we'll talk. And hopefully they'll respect it. People who don't respect that, I really don't like. It's like, they exist. I like them later, but not beforehand. It's the same instinct that I had as a teenager. It's just, I need time for me. Let's see, there's a new one coming in. Other questions?
So there is one from Nana. Where do you place confidence on the stage? Fright, focus, divide.
So where do I place confidence? Again, on the stage fright. Wait, let me see if I can find it here as well. I don't see it in scrolling. Can you repeat it again, Jessica?
It's where do you place confidence on the stage? Fright, focus, divide.
There. Okay. Yeah. Confidence is absolutely 100% thinking about the audience. The thinking about yourself comes ahead of time. That is, when you're in the mirror putting your makeup on. Okay, guys, putting your makeup on, doing your hair, making sure you're wearing an outfit that's going to be, okay for that occasion. That's when you're focused on you. But in the confidence in front of the audience is knowing that you know your stuff and just being able to share what you know with others and getting a joy out of that. That's confidence. Yeah. So it's very much on the, if I go back to the flip chart, on the focus on the audience side.
I think Nana was trying to say something.
Yes.
Nana, do you have any further questions regarding this one, or?
Good afternoon, and from Ghana. Thank you for the opportunity. I think Laura, I was trying to clarify the question, but she actually got it. So that's why I raised my hand. Because when you were talking about stage fright being focused on you, and sometimes confidence in itself can be self-inferred. So I just wanted to be clear where you place confidence, but I think you've answered it. Thank you very much.
There are a lot of things that I train with my clients beforehand. things like standing in a very strong posture, for example. That's one of, we know from a lot of different research. Amy Cuddy did research at the early 20 teens about this. But we know that if you put yourself in a physically strong posture, then your body's going to produce things like dopamine and serotonin, the happy hormones, if you will, that give you a better connection to what you know and who you are. It just helps the neurotransmitters function much more efficiently. So you don't have any blocks, mental blocks as you're giving your presentation. So definitely put yourself in a strong physical state. That's there as well. But I don't ever think about the word confidence when I'm on the stage or getting ready to go to the stage. I think about what I'm going to share. And they know that. The audience senses that somehow. They know if it's about them or if it's about you. And one of the reasons I say kind of start rather provocatively with stage fright is very egotistical. It's often people think it's showing humility. If I say, oh, I'm so scared or whatever, it's showing humility. It's not. It just isn't. It's showing that you care about what they think about you, and the focus is just not on them. Humility is focusing on them. And that's a really important thing to learn. But your question's great. I had never thought about, do you ever think about the word confidence, in that sense? We talk about being confident, but it's, again, am I confident today or not, then you're on the stage fright side. But if you are focused on them, then you are confident.
Thank you, Laura. I think we have some more questions. Let's try to answer 1, 2 more. And the rest, of course, everyone can email to us or to you directly, and we'll try to answer as many possible. So the next question is from Adriana. How to close a presentation? What works best? And then from Emmanuel, how do you present when I'm not really prepared? What gestures become a distraction?
I have a wonderful colleague and friend, Arnold Rawls. He's a tenor. And tenors in the operatic world are very emotional, and anyway, but he's got this wonderful saying, and so he fits that. He said what he tells his his students, and what he mentioned to me when I was telling him this was a long time ago when I was creating my first overcoming stage fright course. He said that his stage fright is proportional to the amount of preparation that he has done. So I am a fan of preparation. I really am. It is what we need when it helps us. It helps us think through the process that we want to be sharing. And I just am much more a fan of preparation than improvisation. That being said, improvisation is a good skill to have in case something goes differently than you've planned, like the camera shuts off or whatever. If you are not prepared, and that will happen to all of us at some point, if you're not as prepared, what I do for myself, I assume if you're being asked to speak about something, it is a topic that you know something about. You may not have the chance to prepare as much as you would have liked, but you most likely know something about the topic. And in that case, I would just immediately say, okay, what do I know that I can share with them now? Just spontaneously, what can I share? And focus on that. The other thing, one of the things that I also train with my clients is to get into a playful attitude. A playful attitude, with that I mean full of respect, full of both awareness and what I've spoke about at the beginning, this coach state of connection to the audience, wanting to interact, to play with them. Because that also, a playful state helps us stay in our center more than anything else. And especially in those situations where we're not perhaps as prepared as we would like to have been, that can help to think, okay, I really do want to interact with these people. I want to play. I want to meet with them. I want to be in this situation, even if it's a large crowd. You still have the same mentality. Then enjoy that and share what you have to share. And you can ask questions. You always can ask the audience, what are their questions? You know, not always. Like, well, even I've done that with even a crowd of 1,000, 1,500. Somebody will yell something, I'm sure. If you say, so anybody here, and somebody will yell something. But you can, you know, you just kind of can decide, what do I have that I can offer, and you focus on that. Yeah, would be my advice. First advice is always be prepared. That's just more fun. If you're prepared and you get there, and then you can enjoy it more. Otherwise, you're kind of thinking, okay, what do I have? It's more spontaneous. And what was the other question? Closings. Yes, closing. Close with a bang. The word that came when I heard as Jessica was reading the question, I thought the word that came to mind was fireworks. In my case, I typically close with a song, because that's what I do. If you do magic, you could do a magic trick. If you do, closing with a story is with closing up the story, as we talked about the loop. That's also closing with the bang. It's ideally there's swelling music behind you and fireworks going off, but that's not really going to happen every time. That happens very rarely. But whatever you do, the ending is the most important. The beginning is probably the most important. The ending is the second most important of your part of your presentation. So make sure both of those are just connected to each other and really strong. Other questions or?
Well, okay. I think we can continue answering your questions by email. I've just shared in the chat box our official email, so you can email. You can send us more information that you want to learn from Laura, and so we can share the presentation as well.
First of all, Laura.
Yes.
Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And I am sure that I speak on behalf of almost 70 participants. And I can tell you this particular workshop, masterclass, is one of the best we had until now. Very practical. I mean, the only thing we missed was that you didn't sing to us. So you could sing Rigoletto, or you could sing something attractive that we will fill other of your quantities. But please, when you have a concert or when you have an opera performance, do invite us. We may come.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
And the guys from Africa and Adriana from Brazil and many others will come, because you really did a great professional performance. We thank you very much. And I would like to address also our members and our participants. Don't hesitate to contact Laura, to ask her questions, to put your opinions, and also do it online. Do it on the WCFA social media, either Facebook or LinkedIn. And I hope, Laura, that we will see very soon again.
Thank you. I do have, Maxime, I don't know if we've got time. I know that I do have a song if you would like to end with it. It's about 1.5 minutes.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Yeah? Okay.
Absolutely. Go ahead. It will be a pleasure.
All right. This song is called This is the Moment.
Okay. So this is the moment for you, Laura.
Yes. And this song
is dedicated to me.
As I was preparing for today, I thought about what song would be best for you all. And I thought about this song because there's one line in it. It says, this is the moment, this is the time when the moment and the momentum are in rhyme. And I wish that for all of you, that you, when you're giving a presentation, when you're, no matter how the audience is, if they're on your side or if you feel like they may not be, that you stay centered and focused, and you you allow that the moment and the momentum come together in that presentation. So this is the moment. This is the moment, this is the day, when I send all my doubts and demons on their way. Every endeavor I have found ever is coming true today, is here and now to stay. This is the moment, this is the time, when the momentum and the moment are in rhyme. Give me this moment, this special chance. I'll gather up my past and make some sense at last. This is the moment when all is done, when all the dreaming, screaming and scheming become one. This is the day, see it sparkle and shine, when all I've lived for, when all I've lived for, when all I've lived for becomes mine. Thank you very, very much.
You made our year. Thank you very much, Laura. I mean, I was in a mistake saying that it was thought that you didn't sing, but now you made a full picture. A great public relations expert, a singer, a coach, and a good friend, Laura Baxter. Thank you very much on behalf of the whole WCFA community. We really hope to see you in Davos in April. I promise, because you are located not far away from Davos.
Not far at all, no.
And Laura is in Germany. So I promise that at the gala dinner, you'll have the floor and the microphone. And it will be a great pleasure to hear your voice live.
Oh,
thank you,
Maxime.
And to all of you guys, I wish you a very happy new year, very productive, very profitable. And I see a lot of friends from Africa, which I would like to thank especially. And I would advise you to contact Tabisile Fumo from South Africa and to make a very strong African group in WCFA of members, of intelligent professionals. And of course, I would address our good friend Adriana from Brazil as well, to start promoting WCFA among Latin America much more actively and much more with much more energy, in a way that we make also a Latin American strong group. Again, Laura, we love you and Happy New Year.
Thank you. Same here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.